Hello, and welcome back to Daily English Talk. My name is Emily, and I'm really happy you're here with me today. I always imagine that when someone presses play on this podcast, they're looking for something calm, something simple, something that doesn't make them feel stressed or rushed. So let's just slow down a little and take this time together. Today we're going to talk about something very basic, but also very important, especially if you want to use English in real life. Not only in textbooks or exercises. We're going to talk about how to talk about yourself in English, in daily situations, in a way that feels natural, human, and comfortable. For many people, learning English, talking about yourself is one of the hardest things. And it's interesting because you know yourself very well. You know your life, your habits, your thoughts, but when you need to say these things in English, suddenly everything feels complicated. I remember this feeling very clearly. From my own experience learning a foreign language, I could understand a lot, I could read, I could listen, but when someone asked me something simple like, "So, tell me about yourself," my mind just stopped. I started thinking too much. I thought about grammar, about vocabulary, about how I sound. And the more I thought, the harder it became to speak. What I learned over time is that in daily life, people don't expect perfect English. They don't expect beautiful sentences. They just want to understand who you are, even a little bit. Talking about yourself is not a performance. It's a conversation. In everyday English, talking about yourself usually means small things, very small things. Your name, what you do, how your days usually look, what you like, how you feel, that's it. It's not about telling your whole story. One of the most common questions people ask is, "Tell me about yourself." This question can sound very serious, but most of the time, it's actually very friendly. People are just opening a conversation. In real life, when someone asks this, they usually expect a short answer. Something simple. For example, you can say your name and what you do. "I'm Emily, I work online." That already answers the question. You can add one more detail if you want. "I enjoy quiet routines," or "I'm learning something new right now." When I introduce myself, I often say something like, "I'm Emily, I work online, and I like calm, simple days." This sentence is not special, but it feels honest. And honesty is more important than sounding impressive. Talking about yourself also changes, depending on where you are and who you're talking to. This is very important to understand. At work, people usually talk about work. They say what they do, how long they've been doing it, or what they're working on right now. You don't usually talk about very personal things at first. For example, at work, you might say, "I work in customer service," or "I'm part of the marketing team," or "I started this job last year." These sentences are very common. In my own work conversations, I usually keep things simple. I might say, "I work remotely," or "My schedule is flexible." I don't explain my whole life, and that's normal. In social situations, like meeting new people or talking to friends, the conversation is usually more relaxed. People might ask where you're from, what you like to do, or how you spend your time. "Where are you from?" is another very common question. And again, the answer can be very short. You can say, "I'm from a small city," or "I'm from the capital," or "I grew up near the sea." You don't need to add more unless you want to. Sometimes I say, "I'm from a quieter place, and I think that's why I like calm environments." That's already a little personal, but still very simple. Talking about yourself often includes talking about your daily life. Daily life is actually one of the easiest topics, because everyone has one, and there is no right or wrong way to live. People say things like, "My days are pretty busy," "My routine is simple," "I work during the day," or "I'm usually at home." These sentences are easy and natural. When I talk about my daily life, I often say, "My days are quite calm. I work, I take walks, and I spend a lot of time at home." That's not exciting, but it's real. And many people feel the same way. Free time is another very common topic. People ask, "What do you do in your free time?" And again, one or two things are enough. You can say, "I like walking," "I enjoy watching videos," "I like staying at home," or "I spend time with my family." These are all natural answers. In my case, I often say, "In my free time, I like being offline. I read, I walk, and I rest." This tells people a little bit about my personality without saying too much. Talking about yourself also means talking about how you feel. In English, people often ask, "How are you?" And most of the time, this is just a polite question. In everyday situations, you can answer very simply, "I'm good," "I'm okay," "I'm doing fine." These are safe answers. But with people you know, you might want to be more honest. You can say, "I'm a bit tired today," or "I've been busy lately," or "I'm feeling better now." I personally like these answers because they feel human. They don't sound like a script. They sound like real life. Another part of talking about yourself is describing your personality. And again, you don't need big words for this. You can say, "I'm a quiet person," "I'm more introverted," "I like being alone," or "I enjoy being around people." These sentences are simple and very common. When I talk about myself, I often say, "I'm more on the quiet side. I enjoy deep conversations, not small talk." This feels true to me, and it's easy to say. In English, people often soften their words. They say a bit, kind of, pretty, or quite. This makes sentences sound more natural and less strong. For example, instead of saying, "I am very shy," you can say, "I'm a bit shy." Instead of, "I am always busy," you can say, "I'm usually pretty busy." As you practice talking about yourself, try not to memorize long texts. Try to notice how people really speak. They speak simply. They repeat themselves. They pause. They don't rush. Talking about yourself becomes much easier when you stop trying to sound perfect and start trying to sound real. And as we continue, we'll go deeper into talking about your experiences, your habits, and how to speak about yourself in different moments of life using calm, natural English that feels comfortable to listen to. As you keep talking about yourself in English, something interesting starts to happen. At first, you're very aware of every word. You're thinking about grammar, about mistakes, about how long your pauses are. But slowly, little by little, you start to relax. And that's when your English begins to sound more natural. One thing I really want you to understand is that you don't need to say everything at once. You don't need to explain your whole life story in one conversation. Real conversations are built slowly over time. One small detail today, another detail tomorrow. For example, if someone asks you about your work, you don't need to explain everything you do in one sentence. You can simply say, "I work online," or "I work in an office," or "I'm studying right now." And then you can stop. If the other person is interested, they will ask more questions. I use this approach all the time. When someone asks me what I do, I often start very small. I say, "I work online." If they ask more, I might add, "I work with content," or "I spend a lot of time writing and recording." I only go deeper if the conversation feels comfortable. This is very important for beginners because many learners feel pressure to give a perfect, full answer. But in real life, short answers are completely normal. Another common part of talking about yourself is talking about your past. People might ask, "What did you do before?" or "How did you start?" And again, you don't need details. You can say something simple like, "I studied something different before," or "I worked in another field," or "I changed my direction." These sentences are very common and very useful. When I talk about my own past, I often keep it light. I say, "I tried different things before I found what fits me." That sentence says a lot, but it doesn't feel heavy. Talking about yourself also includes talking about change. People often ask things like, "Are you enjoying it?" or "Do you like what you're doing now?" These are questions about how you feel in the present. You can answer honestly but simply. "Yes, I enjoy it. I'm still learning. It's challenging but interesting." These phrases sound very natural. In my own life, I often say, "I'm still figuring things out." And that's a very real sentence. Many adults feel that way, and it connects with people. Another thing that helps your English sound more natural is adding small personal reflections. Not explanations, just feelings. For example, instead of saying only, "I work from home," you can say, "I work from home and I really like the flexibility." Or, I work from home, which is nice, but sometimes lonely. These little additions make your speech sound human. I often talk about balance in my life. I might say, I like my routine, but I also try not to be too strict with myself. This kind of sentence doesn't use difficult English, but it feels thoughtful. Talking about yourself also means talking about your habits. Habits are easy topics because they repeat every day. You can talk about mornings. I wake up early. I need time to wake up. I start my day slowly. All of these are very common. Personally, I usually say, my mornings are quiet. I don't like rushing. That one sentence already paints a picture. You can talk about evenings. I relax at home. I don't go out much. I like calm evenings. Again, very simple. When people ask me about evenings, I often say, evenings are my favorite part of the day. I slow down. And people usually understand exactly what I mean. Another important part of talking about yourself is learning to say things you don't like, politely and softly. You don't need strong words. You can say, I'm not really into that, or it's not my thing, or I prefer something else. These phrases are very useful in daily life. For example, if someone asks you about loud parties and you don't like them, you can say, I'm more into quiet gatherings. That sounds friendly and honest. I use this kind of language a lot because it feels respectful. I don't say, I hate this. I say, it's not really for me. Talking about yourself also includes talking about your goals. But again, in daily life, goals don't have to sound big. You can say, I want to improve my English. I'm trying to be healthier, or I'm focusing on simple things right now. These are very natural sentences. In my own conversations, I often say, right now, I'm trying to live a bit more slowly. And people usually nod because many people feel the same way. What I really want you to remember is this. Your English doesn't need to be impressive. It needs to be understandable and honest. You don't need advanced vocabulary to talk about yourself. You need comfort. You need repetition. You need time. The more you practice talking about yourself in simple ways, the more confident you will feel. And confidence changes everything. Even simple English sounds good when it's spoken with calm confidence. So keep practicing small sentences. Talk about your day. Talk about how you feel. Talk about what you like and what you don't. This is real English. This is daily English. And if you enjoy learning English this way, through calm conversations and real-life topics, don't forget to subscribe to Daily English Talk. New episodes are here to help you feel more comfortable, more confident, and more relaxed with English, step by step.